It's a new year, so some new goals. Join us as we talk today about 5 writers' goals for the new year. You're not going to want to miss this one.
Welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie writers on their journey to publication. I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
I'm Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
I'm Christina Catane, and I write in multiple genres, including Christian fantasy.
Ooh, yeah, multiple genres. You're speaking my language. Anyway,
I
got a
never
little distracted.
when we're going through the opening and it's playing, I still every single time see the gum in my mouth. Do you guys see it? I feel like it's glaring out the corner of my mouth. Remember how I was chewing gum when we had our photos and I didn't think about it? And
No,
every
but
photo of me has my gum. You can see it in the corner.
I will probably see it every time now. Thank you.
I've never noticed it.
I
cannot unsee it.
I always like Miss Rhonda when we're watching it, and I get
No.
in this really happy, nostalgic mood. You did such a great job with that video, Jen. It just makes me feel all some kind of way.
Gee, thanks.
Welcome to everybody listening later as a recorded episode, but welcome especially to our live chat. Purpose Behind the Pen is with us. Good morning to you. Meg says she finally remembered how or when to log in to watch live. Yeah, glad to have you here, Meg. SL Parent says, good morning, everyone. And there's Piper. Hey, everyone. Hi, everybody. So glad to be here with you today. And if you can join us at 10 a.m. Eastern in our live chat, great people in the live chat. And a lot of times they have advice and perspectives that we don't have on our own. So, cord of many strands, right? And we appreciate you and we appreciate your support. If you love us, tell your friends. If you hate us, tell the entire world. And hopefully we can grow our listenership that way.
They should tell the entire world either way.
Yeah, exactly. Every episode we start with what's up, where we go around the imaginary table and ask the host what's up in their personal and professional life. So what's up with you, Jen?
Well, I didn't get nearly as far as I thought I was going to in organizing all of the stuff happening out there. I mentioned last week that I felt that once I got that done, that I was going to gut my office, and I thought maybe I needed a reset, didn't get anywhere near as far. It's just taking me forever. And I was talking with a good friend of mine who knew my mother well. And a lot of this stuff is things that came from her house, right? I had all my own craft and scrapbook stuff. And then I went through her stuff there, which was emotional. I got rid of a bunch and then brought some home. And then I'm going through it again, and sorting and purging. And she's like, why do you think you're gonna be able to rush through this? It's like you're getting rid of part of your mom, which is totally what it is. And I don't mean to keep harping on this. People are probably tired of listening to me talk about them still mourning, but it's rough and it's hard, but it's getting there and it's getting exciting because we're to the point where we were going to go down to IKEA, and the weather's been bad here, to get the desks and the things set up for my girls' homeschool area. But I guess the good news is I went online before and I put the desk in the cart to see how much it was going to cost to ship. And I'm like, we're driving down there. And then just recently I put everything in the cart and I qualify for not only free shipping, but they will carry it in to whatever room you want them to put it into.
Wow.
Why would I not do that?
Right.
So I'm so excited that I don't have to lug these big boxes and some college kid is going to be carrying it in downstairs for me. I don't care. I'm super excited. So things are moving along. And today when we did our sprinting, I was more excited to write, I think, than I have in a long time. And I didn't want to stop. So I feel like I'm kind of coming around a curve, so
nice.
Good things happen in here. So I don't have anything like anything like meaty to be like, look what I did, but I feel it. Does that make sense? That sounds weird and fruity, but that's how I feel.
I think giving yourself permission to mourn in whatever way that is, even if it's taking a long time to get rid of possessions or whatever, is really um, wise. There's wisdom
Mhm.
there. And I think that that's very good that you're being so kind to yourself.
Mm.
And anybody who would tell you like, oh, you're going on and on about it, or you're somehow taking too long or doing it wrong or something, that's just so ridiculous. Because I mean, grief is not a timeline, right? There's not a
I don't think anyone would say that to me. I just think that, like, it's not anyone else's personal burden, so I can see getting tired of hearing about it. Like, I can. Like, and people tune in to hear us talk about writing and about
uh,
our careers and like that, and you've not been getting that from me for a while now. And so and I appreciate everybody who's still here and who's still sticking by me, and I acknowledge that I'm sure that's how you feel. But if you've been here long enough, you know that how much loss I've had over the past several years. And so it's been a journey. So, but God is so good. Like I got to teach to the teens this last couple the past 2 weeks, and I
mhm.
used to teach Sunday school and I miss it so much. So much. So it was so great to be able to like sit with them and unpack the book of Jude actually, and just found out from Tina that her husband is preaching from Jude right now. So yeah, if you haven't read Jude lately, it's a
Good stuff.
great read. It is good stuff. Like, it's short and, like, don't just read it. Like, read a verse and then dig deeper. Like, every verse is, like there's some good stuff there. So, anyway, that's my what's up.
And really, there's some people out there, I'm sure, listening to us that are also going through a journey of grief. And I
Mm,
feel like those are the people, those are your audience right now.
yeah,
They need to
yeah,
hear from you. They need to know that they're not alone in the
mm.
things that they're experiencing, and that will be a benefit to them.
Yeah, because so many times the people closest to you, around you, maybe aren't the ones that can understand it, you know? Luckily, my friend
Mm.
Linda who I talked to, she lost her dad very young. He was in his 50s, I think, when he died.
Mm.
And so she was, I think, she was in her 30s, so, like, very young. But that was the only loss that she's had, really, but she's been through a whole lot of other things. But most so she was able to relate, but most people aren't able to relate, you know, they just can't. So I'm glad to hear that, and it holds true because, Meg says, "Jen, I can identify so much because of the losses I've experienced the last few years too. You can't rush through it. It is a journey." That is so true. And then Piper says, "I know I speak not just for myself when I say I don't only listen for writing information. I listen because you ladies have become my people, and I care about
Mm.
your lives, not just your careers." Oh, Piper, thank you. We feel the same way about you guys. We really do. Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Piper also has her own what's up. Her main character finally found the dead body. Dun dun dun.
I'm so happy they found a dead body.
I know. When I first read it, I read my family finally found the
Mhm.
dead body, and I was like, I know I haven't been around. So what have
Uh,
I missed? She says she hasn't been writing much, spending too much time researching the family tree. Oh, those rabbit trails, they'll get you off. I
Mhm.
will do my what's up because that's a great segue, being as she says she hasn't been writing much. I have been writing not at all, except for the Fridays that we get together. And I'm just refusing to allow myself to be sad about that. I have whatever internally going on about the writing, which we'll get into when we get into this episode today. But I did
Mhm.
go to watch an open mic night, and that does not sound like really that much of a big deal. But what you have to understand is the more times I go and watch, the closer I get to actually participating. So this is like a step for me because I have to have like a reason to practice. And so I have to feel like there's somewhere I want to go to play. Like there needs to be, instead of me just playing so that I know how to play, I have to like have some kind of goal, right?
Mhm.
So It was great
Not an
because this
open
is
mic comedy night, like open mic
no,
singing and playing.
singing and playing,
Either way,
yeah.
I would have been, like, so excited for you,
Well,
but
because I feel like I need I want to play out, but I mean there has to be a first time, right? And so
yeah.
I go and scout around here when I find them. This one happens to be regular enough to where I could make it like a goal to play there because the others I've
Mhm.
attended have felt more pop-up-ish and you can't really figure out when that's going to be. And,
Mm.
the goal would be that I would be ready to play no matter what, but, you have to be practiced up to a certain degree. So, that's what I'm gonna share is my what's up.
That's so exciting. Do you go by yourself or do you have friends that go with you or
Just all by myself. Yes,
That's
I'm
so
all by
funny. 2
myself.
weeks in a row that song made it well, pre-show last week, but you're the bravest person I know. You
Oh my
truly are.
goodness. If you don't think I was on the phone with my friend having her hype me up to go and do stuff by myself, you got another thing coming because she was like, and I always end up saying, I won't be unhappy that I didn't go. You know what I mean? It's like I
Mhm.
might be unhappy. Like I won't be unhappy that I went. That's what I'm saying. I
Right.
might be unhappy that I didn't go, but and then I said, well, I can always turn around and walk out if it's not my scene or whatever.
True,
So
true.
I did it and I
That's
lived to tell the
exciting.
tale.
Have somebody video if you do it. We gotta have
Yeah.
some proof
All
of
right, I
this.
appreciate that. All right,
So
Tina,
exciting.
what's up with you, Tina?
Well, on Monday, I got some stuff done on my manuscript.
Oh, yay.
And then Tuesday, I had oral surgery
Ugh.
Oh, no.
on a tooth that had broken in like the end of October, beginning of November. It took me that long to get into the oral surgeon.
Man.
Hmm.
It was quick and painless, and then I've spent the last few days on narcotics. So
Did they remove it, Tina?
I'm sorry.
Did they remove it?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, it
Well,
had
quick and
broken down
painless,
to the
huh?
gum line, so the regular dentist couldn't do anything.
That's what I was wondering because you said quick and painless, and I was like, wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
gave me the laughing gas. That's wonderful stuff.
And yet she didn't call me afterwards. I didn't get to enjoy this.
They gave me oxygen for like 5 minutes before they let me leave, which counteracted the laughing gas. So
Darn
my
it.
daughter, who was ready to record me on the drive home, didn't get anything good.
I
Yeah.
am always afraid of that sedation because the one where you are conscious, but you don't remember, because I'm sure I'm just gonna spill every skeleton in my
And
closet.
here's
Wow.
the thing. One of the surgeons in that practice is married to this guy that almost asked me out once.
Mm.
Like, he stopped me in the hallway and asked me what I like to do for fun, and I answered, "Hang out with my boyfriend." So, like, it was a precursor to a date, right?
Mhm.
And I was afraid that I was just gonna blurt that out.
When you're what does she look like? I wanna know because I know who this guy is.
I
Like,
don't
did
know,
what
I
you ex
haven't met her. I saw a different surgeon.
Oh, okay.
But,
I just wondered,
I
like,
saw
you
her
know how you
picture on the website, so you
Mhm.
could also go look at the website, but, um the only thing partly scandalous that I might have said was the surgeon came in and said, "How are you feeling?" And I said, "Like I just smoked a joint." And then I was like, "But it's been a really long time." She said, "Good." And then we started the surgery. So it's
That's
like,
hilarious.
and also, like right now, Jamie is all like a bunch of squiggly lines. Like that's all I see of her little box.
So
Except when
weird.
you post somebody else's comments from the chat, then she shows up perfectly.
So weird, and it's only
Isn't
on
that
your end
weird?
because last week we
Yeah,
had,
it's only me.
Ben Wolf as a guest, and he's like, "I can see her." Yeah,
I don't understand it. It's weird.
it's so weird.
Jen, I just want to support you with purpose behind the pen's comment too. She says she still doesn't understand how she managed to get through losing her best friend 4.5 years ago. I know it is because of God. He must have
Mm,
sustained you, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, it's you.
I don't know
You
how
do
people
wonder
deal
how do
with
you
it.
keep going. You know what I mean?
If you don't have God in your life, I don't know how you go through what she's gone through, what Meg's gone through, what I've gone through. I don't understand it. Like, I couldn't without him. So,
Well, and
Yeah.
I know people that have lost somebody recent, like it was a year ago today actually that he died, and they're still reeling. Like they're still
Mm.
like, I don't know how to go on kind of posts on Facebook.
Mm.
And they do not have God in their life. So
Mm. Yeah.
Um, so Meg McDonald is just trying to bait me to come to Michigan. First of all, she's putting all the time in the Facebook group about y'all meeting up and y'all, and I'm having
Mhm.
FOMO. And now she's saying that Totem Books does open mic nights. Like she's just come to
Mhm.
Michigan, come to Michigan. Urgh.
Speaking of which, if you are local, we are going to be doing a meetup this Thursday at the Panera in Grand Blanc, Michigan. So if you need more information, you can message us on our Facebook page,
And
probably or
Meg,
Instagram page.
sorry about that. Meg also
Mhm.
lost her husband and says she doesn't know how she would have endured it without God. And I feel like that seems to be the overwhelming message here. And I hope that you all
Mhm.
feel a little better. And if anybody ever wants to reach out to me, I recently heard a quote: a burden shared is a burden halved. And I know that the
Mhm.
Bible talks about our responsibility to one another is to bear each other's burdens. I don't ever get tired of hearing it. And I appreciate the opportunity to be a support. So if anybody ever needs me, I'm just a private message away, okay?
awesome.
All right. And so
Mhm.
we do have a topic to cover today, and it is 5 goals for writers for the new year. And ladies, someone caught an article that inspired this episode, I guess, right? Tell me about that.
Yeah, believe it or not, I came across it on thesaurus.com, which I love that website. I know there's some people that are like look down on you if you use a thesaurus. I think that sometimes when I'm stuck, it's because like it's just not there, right? Or I want a
Mm,
better word than the one I've used. And have you guys been writing and you use a word and you know that's not the word you want and you know that you know the word, but it just isn't coming to you? I use thesaurus.com all the time for that. I came across this article and I put it in the show notes for y'all to read. But it was on New Year's resolutions for writers, and it made me think about. I didn't agree with everything in it, but it spawned a lot of thoughts for me.
okay.
So go take a look. So today's episode is really us kind of our own take on that article and us commenting on some of the things that she shared. So everyone take a look at that article. Yeah. So
And also, there was a chat conversation with some of our listeners about that
Mm.
topic around the beginning of the year, about some of the things they wanted to accomplish for the new year. And so we kind of took some of that in there too.
All right. And so this episode is our take. And there are 5, and then we've got a bonus for you also. And the
right.
first take on the resolutions is to number 1, finish something. Who would like to speak on that?
Before we speak, if I put this on here, can you see Jamie now?
Yes.
There we go. We'll just leave that there. For those of you
How
listening, I just put a banner up that just says so
Yeah,
Tina
I
can
can
see
see
Jamie.
Jamie.
I do.
Hi.
That's great.
All right. All right. So finish something. Tina, were you starting to talk?
Well, I was just saying I took that advice, even though we haven't had the show yet. And I
Mhm.
have been looking at my um, book 3 of my last series because it's almost done. And so I've been
Mhm.
looking at it to get it finished.
Same. My book's finished. I just gotta get the formatting and all that. And again, things are just slowing me down because, and it's myself. It's really me. Like, I don't know what it is about me that is afraid of finishing this series. I don't know. I just gotta get it done. I gotta like put everything in life aside. Everything is always more important, you know? And so I gotta put all that aside. But whether you've never finished a novel or you have published several, sometimes you just have trouble getting across the finish line. And so finish it this year. Make that your goal. Like before, we've always had like the kind of extensive goals, but if you just make that your goal, and that's good enough. Like if you can finish, get across the line for whatever project it is that is slowing you down or holding you up, then do it. So finish something is our first goal.
Yeah, and that is a it could be a pretty easy goal too If you are overwhelmed by the ideal of finishing your novel, maybe there is a goal you've had of setting up your website, or maybe there's a goal you've had, finish
Mhm.
something, right? So,
Mhm.
because then the ideal is that the one win might snowball into others.
And I
Right.
recently found a Facebook group that I joined, and it's creative writing something. I don't remember what it's called now. But every day they have a prompt that is half a sentence, and you're supposed to finish the sentence.
Hmm.
Mm.
And I've been doing that even though I was on painkillers. And it's been kind of fun. And it kind of gets you, like, it's only one sentence. You can finish that. And
Mm.
the feeling that you get when you do that is, I could do that again. And if
Mm.
that's the feeling
Yes.
that you get, then you could go into your manuscript and write a sentence, write 2 sentences,
Right.
get going on it.
Especially if it's not editing, but it's just manuscript, getting the first draft done. I think sometimes we get stuck in the perfection mode when it's the
Mm.
first draft. Just get it done, because a
Mhm.
lot of it can be fixed in editing, right? And sometimes you need, especially if you've never finished one, you need that feeling that Tina was talking about of, "I did it." I remember when I
Mhm.
first finished my first book, I printed it out. I printed out the whole book,
Me
including the
same.
fake cover that I made, and I did we had a group, just us writing group, and I did a video, like, and just show and held it up. I don't know if you guys remember this, but,
Yeah.
like, it felt great to be able to say, "I did it, finally did it,"
Mhm.
and that helped, so,
Yeah.
Love that.
mhm,
Purpose Behind the Pen says she's afraid at this point to finish the finale of the first series, and I'm only 6 chapters away from the finish line. And it's
mm,
interesting because if you examine that fear, what is that fear? Because sometimes you ask yourself if you're afraid of the success, or you're afraid that the next ideal won't come along, or you're afraid that it won't be received the way that you imagine that it would be received. What is the nature of your fear? And sometimes, if you can get to the
mhm,
bottom of that, it's something that can be addressed. Even if it's, you examine, well, what would worst case scenario be? Okay, I've come to terms with that, and that gives you permission to forge ahead, right?
Yeah, for me,
agreed.
I think it's, that I won't be as good as the first 2. Like,
Mm,
Mm.
I got good feedback for the first 2, and it's this feeling that this one's not as good.
I had
mm,
that feeling with all 3 books after the first one. Everyone, so if you're feeling that, anyone out there, we all feel it. And just
Mhm.
don't listen to it. I really think it's Satan just trying to stop you from, finishing the goal.
Probably.
Yeah,
yeah, I
so
mean, if your books are like your children, you have to understand that they're all going to be different, and they're all going to have merits, and they're all going to be wonderful and well received by the right audience, because I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but some people prefer coffee, kind of a thing.
mhm.
So you may get different feedback, but it does not really reflect upon the worthiness of the work. Anyway, this is not a Jamie Give Advice episode. This is
Well,
appropriate resolutions for writers episode, right?
mm. Yeah, but, Purpose Behind the Pen agrees with us. She said that perfection is her biggest weakness when writing first drafts.
Oh, yeah.
Agreed. And
Mhm.
Piper, we're twins. She said she printed out her first book too, took a photo of herself holding it. Such a marvelous feeling to celebrate. I agree. I agree.
All right. So our first resolution possibility candidate is finish something. The second one is shake things up. All right.
Yeah.
So are you in a rut? Are you following some cycle that's not working for you? How do you shake things up, Jen?
Put the laptop away and write with pen and paper. That's what when I
Ooh.
just feel stuck, sometimes I just do that. Gosh, part of me thought maybe I should try like the next series, just write everything pen and paper and then go back
Mm,
in. And then, as you're typing it, you're going to improve it and edit it. And
mm.
I haven't done this yet, but there's a part of me that thinks that maybe that's what I need to do for the next series. But yeah, I think that's one great example, is just to put the laptop away. We assume that that's how we need to do it, but there's lots of distractions with your laptop. Paper
Well,
and pen are not going to ding at you that someone's messaged you.
and speaking of distractions, I would imagine that if the distraction is everybody in your house, you could find somewhere else to write.
Yes. Or even
So
somewhere else in your house. Like, I found that this room feels business to me. I do the podcast
mhm.
here, any of the advertising work I do is here. Sometimes it just feels good to go to a recliner for a while or go to my kitchen table for a while.
That's interesting too, Jennifer, because maybe instead of shaking things up, there are people who need to develop routines. So I guess we
Mm,
could add a slash to it and do the opposite. So if you're typically
yeah.
someone who's really scattered about your approach, maybe implementing, I always write when I sit in this chair. Maybe you're that kind of a person and that would help you.
Yeah,
I know when I
maybe.
was a kid, I always used to write laying on my stomach with a notepad on my bed.
Me
Mm.
too.
And when I get stuck, that's what I do. I go lay on my bed on my stomach with a notepad, and it seems to get to access something inside me that's different than when I sit at my laptop or my computer.
That's
I swear
great.
that it activates you use a different part of your brain when I don't
Mm.
have the
I'm
scientific
sure.
proof, but I feel like there's a different part of your brain that you use when you pen to paper than when you're typing, but
And
I don't have
also
the
it's slower, so you have
Yes.
more time to think about what you're writing.
It forces you to slow down and think about what you're
Yeah.
writing. Yeah.
Yep.
Love
You could
that.
also change genres,
There you
like, shake
go.
it up,
Mhm.
like, Ben told us last week Ben Wolf was on the show last week, and he talked about how he does different genres, and he's very successful in that. Um, that's not usually the common advice out there, and it's usually not the advice I give, but maybe that's what you need to do. Maybe you're just stuck in a rut or something isn't working with you in the genre, or maybe you just need, like, a little bit of inspiration. Like me, going back and forth between contemporary and historical has helped me.
Mm.
It's helped me a lot.
And
So,
sometimes you just need some distance from
Mhm.
yeah.
whatever it is that you're working on that has you stuck. And sometimes writing something completely different can keep that writing habit up, keep your juices going, but give you the distance that you need at the same time.
And make it fun
Mhm.
again instead of feeling so much
Yeah.
like a chore sometimes.
Right.
Right. Right.
Well, and don't forget, writing prompts are maybe a way you could shake things up. You can try to make a goal to write from our writing prompts book that we published. We
Mhm.
want to encourage you to take a 30 days of writing sprint prompts challenge. And that's possibly a goal that you could set, that you're going to shake things up by writing something different every day, starting with a prompt from our book or from another source.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So,
And don't forget too, the other thing we wanted to say is you could start a new series. Even
oh,
if your
yeah.
series isn't done, pen behind the, purpose, sorry, I went blank for a second. If you're struggling, maybe you just need to walk away for a little bit and start a brand new series. Sometimes that makes you, get excited about writing again, and then you can go back to the old series, so
Mhm.
Okay, so resolution candidate number 1, finish something. Number 2, shake things up. Number 3 is put yourself out there. Tina, what are we talking about there?
Finding a way to share your writing,
Mhm.
whatever that means. It could mean publishing it. It could mean joining a critique group. It could mean going on a podcast and reading a 15-minute sprint that you did just
Mhm.
beforehand.
Right.
Right, right.
You
Just
could
like how
put it in our Facebook group if you did the sprint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kinda like the same thing like Jamie talked about going to an open mic night. Like, she needs that motivation knowing that someone else is gonna hear her, that she's got this goal to do, or like, oh, it's almost like a show, right? Same thing, like, knowing that you have to do that, that you're going to do that sometimes gets you going. Like, like, starting a blog might be a good idea. I don't know that blogs are any way to really promote your book, but it might be a way to get you writing again, even if no one reads it. If you put yourself on a schedule and know that you have to throw something up on your blog every Friday or every other Friday might be the motivation you need to start writing again.
And there are platforms out there where you can release things like a chapter at a time.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And people love that. And it's a good way
Yeah.
to give yourself a little bit of pressure to get stuff done if that's your personality, if you need that. And a lot of people do that and find and get successful at it. So
Mhm.
All right, so anything else to say about candidate number 3 for our writing goals for this year? If not, we'll go on to number 4. Number 4 is create a writing habit. So they're important, right? But more
Mhm.
important is finding a habit that works for you. Wouldn't you say, Jen?
Yes, for sure. Um, some people, it's a daily word count goal works for them. Some people, it's a weekly word count goal. Sometimes it's just time wise. Like I'm gonna commit to writing 20 minutes a day. I'm gonna commit to writing 2 hours a day. Whatever it is, it could be by minutes. Sometimes it's just a chapter or a scene or whatever is realistic for you, something that you know that you can actually reach every day. I know in the past I've like done the math and thought, if I do this many words a day, then at the end of summer I'll have this book done and then I can go on to the next. And realistically, that was not really accounting for life, right? But if I can say to myself, I can write a scene a day, and then I can walk away from the computer. Or like today, I would have sat and wrote for another hour. I was like kind of that into the story. So sometimes it just takes like making this realistic goal that you know that you can, or sorry, this writing. Sorry, I moved on just because I got talking. So sorry.
It's fine.
They go hand in hand. So creating this
Yes.
writing habit. The next one is set writing goals, realistic goals. We can go back and forth if we need to, but
Mhm.
like
Sure.
by having these writing habits, then make it realistic, and you'll
Mhm.
find that if you can reach the goals, you'll be so much happier than with yourself as opposed to like beating yourself up because you didn't reach this unrealistic goal. And you'll find, I think, that you'll surpass what your goal is because you get happy about what you're doing instead of feeling like you've got this weight on your shoulders.
And
Yeah,
sometimes
you'll
you need to start out really small. Like maybe you start out with your goal is to open your manuscript every day and just
yes.
have it open. Like for
And
me, I do manuscript time blocks, which is like 25 minutes with a 5-minute break. So 30 minutes is a manuscript time block because I need thinking time and daydream time that I count as working. And so for
Mm.
me, that's a better way to keep track of my goals. And then I figure out, like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to have 4 manuscript time blocks or 6 or however many it is. So that's another option. Sorry,
well,
Jamie, go ahead.
that's all right. I just got Eva Webster had put as an introvert, she really likes writing, but putting myself out there is scary. And so as we're talking about maybe blending up all of these goals, perhaps Eva's first goal could be to actually attend something without the intention of really speaking or participating. Maybe the first step can be to join groups like on Facebook or something to
Mhm.
where you can lurk and not participate and dip your toe in the water of getting involved. So this is would be an example of tailoring goals to meet where you're at, because there isn't anything wrong with not feeling like you want to share all of your writing with everybody in a group of strangers. Like you want
Right.
to, there's wisdom in fact in taking your time to make sure the environment is safe for you. So this is what we're talking about, is to tailor make your goals to suit you and where you're currently at, and then you can expand as you go along and get more comfortable.
Right. And just finding a writing group that maybe just meets just to write, like what we do on Thursdays, is probably a great idea because the mass majority of writers are introverts. So you don't have to worry about going in there and them expecting, like, like when we meet up on Thursdays, we don't have a moment where everybody has to share. We don't have a moment where everyone says, "Oh, you're new. Well, stand up and introduce yourselves." We don't do that. Right? We're all like, I shouldn't say I am an introvert. People don't believe me, but I am. Um, so maybe start there instead of a group where you have to share, right? At least get
Mhm.
out there and meet other writers until you get comfortable with some of them. And then maybe you can form something else where you are comfortable enough sharing.
Yeah, or maybe you'll just find one bestie in that group who really
Yeah.
resonates with you, and the two of you can become writing partners. You never know.
Yep. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, and then our that was our 5 candidates for resolutions for this year. Finish something, shake things up, put yourself out there, create a writing habit, and set realistic goals. Then we have a 6th
Bonus.
bonus. Yes, Jennifer, would you like to share what that is?
Maybe you need a spiritual reset.
Mm.
I think we all can use spiritual resets, but what does that mean, Tina?
It just means that you're going to evaluate where you are spiritually and decide if you need a little bit of a revival, personal
Mhm.
revival, reset, well, whatever language that you want to use. Sometimes, for me personally, I'll get in a spiritual rut and it will directly affect my writing.
Mm.
Mhm. Same. Yeah,
Yeah.
same. And I find that, like, when I prioritize my spiritual, goals, everything else seems just come a little bit easier, right? Not
Mm.
always completely easy, but, like, that growing up, I was all you always hear, like, Bible studies and pastors, everyone say, "Read your Bible first. Read your Bible at the beginning of the day," and, like, not encouraging you to be legalistic about it, for sure, but when you put it first, then it's you don't have to it just seems to start your day off totally different, right? So, make sure that you're, finding a good Bible study you can do, spending time with the Lord. I love to Bible journal, and after my brother died, I stopped.
Mm.
Like, I feel like everything kinda stopped. And so that's been one of the other things that I've set as, a goal for me is that at least twice a week, I'm gonna set time aside to Bible journal because it takes longer to do your Bible study when you're doing that. And, I have a couple new supplies in for it, and so I'm actually kinda getting excited about it and just I spend way more time looking at the scripture and just kind of meditating on it when I do that. So that's one option. So
Awesome. Well, so let's say you decide, you're like Jen, that you need to do something to do a spiritual reset, right? And so, our guidelines for the how, basically, step one, ask God for guidance,
Yeah,
right?
mhm.
because
Yeah.
um I think that should be like the first thing we do in our life in general. In
Right.
any
Mm,
decision that we're making is to ask God for guidance, but God is probably far more interested in your spiritual reset than you are.
Mhm.
Like that is his priority, right? Is your spiritual
Yes.
health. And so if you ask him for guidance, I believe that that's a prayer that will line up right with his will for you and he's going to answer that in one way or another.
Mhm.
all right. And then,
Patricia
mhm.
oh, I'm sorry.
No, go
It
ahead.
it's sorry. We were getting so many comments that it's jumping on me, so I'm sorry if I'm
Wow,
missing you guys.
great.
So, let's see. Patricia says, "It's a growth thing. Face your fears and ask what it is exactly that you are afraid of. You can do this." Yeah, like, I think that, like, asking God those questions, He knows. He knows us inside and out, right? So
Mhm.
And
Right.
so we're going to be looking for maybe some tangible steps that you can take, like things that you
yep.
can do. So making a specific time to pray, making time for that devotion that you maybe picked up or got for a Christmas gift. And then like Jen, is getting some new pens or whatever brought into the house. Those are things that you can tangibly do, right?
Right. And
Mhm.
I always like to look back at what was I doing when things were really good
Hmm.
Mhm.
and running smoothly and just humming along? And what can I bring back into practice that I've fallen away from that
Right,
was happening during that time? That's a good place to start.
right. And I think it's super important too to, like, also find a group that you can be a part of, a community. So whether it's a church that you attend, especially if you've been not attending COVID, I think a lot of people kind of got involved in online viewing and kind of got comfortable there, and I get that because church can be messy as well. But the Bible calls us to not stop gathering together as believers. Maybe it's just finding a Bible study or a small group that you can join. If your writing group is a Christian group, that's even better. We've been a part of both kinds, and we found that we really need to be part of a Christian group. The others are no,
A little out there.
a little out there. The ones we were a part of,
Mhm.
and at the very least, find an accountability partner or group. I'm going through a discipleship workbook right now with my pastor and his wife. We are the only like quote unquote staff members at our church. And the goal is then to turn around and go through the book with someone else. And it's great. Like you should always be, I was told by someone early on in my walk that you should always be being mentored by somebody as well as being a mentor to somebody at the
Hmm.
same time.
I like to
And
say that, but I like to use the word disciple. You
yeah,
should
me
be
too.
discipling someone and being discipled by somebody.
Right. So,
Because that's what Jesus called us to do is to make
mhm,
disciples.
right. I mean, that is the key. And then, oh gosh, I wish I had my book here, the verse, because I can't remember the verse exactly. Oh shoot. Anyway, where Jesus is talking and he says that in his prayer that he has finished the work that you sent me, he says to God. And this was not at Gethsemane. This is not on the cross. This was before then, and he was talking about discipling. He said, the ones you have given me, I have discipled. And so the work is finished. So the work he came for was to disciple and prepare and to teach. But the completion of the sacrifice was dying on the cross. And so if it was that important to Jesus that he got sent to do that work, and then he calls us to do it, then we should be prioritizing that. That
Yeah,
should definitely be. So
I
if you're
agree.
not discipling anybody and you're not being discipled, then that maybe is where we need to start with
Yeah.
these goals, right?
Yep.
All right. So I think we've given some really inspirational fodder, planted seeds sort of thing. But time is not on our side. So we have to move on from this wonderful discussion to the feeding of the backs, which is feedback, positive only in this case, for writing sprints that the three of us completed just before we went on air. So that means there's not been any time for editing or revisions. We wrote it and we're going to read it, for better, for worse. And I always like to pick Jen to go first when it's my turn to host. So, Jen,
All
what
right.
did we have to write about today?
This week is 5 words, which are always my favorite. Before we go on, we got to do a shout out to Eva real quick. She says, "This is my first time on your podcast, and as a Christian, I find it so encouraging. Thank you, ladies." Well,
Oh,
we
wonderful.
appreciate you being here, Eva.
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome.
Intensify, migration, wrap, hemisphere, essay.
So those
I
are
used
5 words that we're supposed
5
to use.
words. I used 3 of them,
Oh,
which
good for you.
good for me. We're supposed to use all of them.
Well, you
Um,
didn't want to stop writing, in fairness.
that's true. That's true. Okay. We're back in Marnie's world. Without looking at the time, Marnie knew it was 5 o'clock. The summer's sun sat deceptively high above the city outside her window, casting beams of heat that intensified the already hot corner of the office that housed her cubicle. But the migration of coworkers filing past her toward the elevators signified the end of the workday. Whatever you're working on, it's time to wrap it up. Marnie looked up at the voice to find Archie, one of the company's IT guys, leaning on the wall of her cubicle. "Yeah, I'm just about finished," Marnie replied with a smile. Archie was a nice guy, if a little too frat boyish for her. "We're all going to Franco's for happy hour if you want to join us." She did not want to. "Maybe," she lied. "Gotta get this done
Mm.
first." "I could wait for you, then we can walk over together." Marnie tried to suppress a sigh. Archie had never been anything but nice to her, but the only interaction she had ever had with him outside the office had been at last year's Christmas party, where he'd had a little too much to drink. He hadn't done anything inappropriate when they had run into each other, but he was a sloppy drunk. Marnie wasn't interested in a repeat. But she struggled for an excuse. What could she say? "Sorry, Archie, I've seen you drunk. Not my idea of a great Friday night." That would be beyond harsh, since she would only be judging him based on one evening, an evening where, to be honest, everyone was acting a bit foolish. "Archie," but before she could finish, a loud voice boomed from Mr. Boss's office. "Martin," he growled, "in here, now." "Sorry," she muttered to Archie before scooting out of her chair. "Maybe next time?" She apprehensively approached Mr. Boss's office and stood in the doorway, not sure what to expect. What in the world could she have done this time? "Shut the door," he growled. She did, but wondered at the sanity of following the order. Once the door shut, he leaned back in his chair, laced his fingers behind his head, and smiled. "You're welcome."
Yay.
I would
Yay
say
for
3,
Mr.
2
Boss.
I would say 3, 2, 1, but I took an extra minute or 2 afterwards
So
to
let
get
me ask this. He called her Martin.
I guessing her. I don't know what her last name is. I think I've called her several things over the years
Do
that I've
you
been
want to know what I put in there in my head?
What?
In my head, I put in there that this is a running joke that he pretends to not remember her name and calls her something different, like just to be a but, you know what I mean? Like her
Mm.
name is Marnie, but he's gonna call her Martin. He's gonna call her Mary. He's gonna call her Molly, like whatever, just to see if he
Ah,
can get her goat about it.
that's
But
good.
anyway, I know because that's his, you made him that real to me that I feel like that's what he
Like,
would do. Do you know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
and it would be something he would do. So that's so great that, like, that's
Yeah, good
awesome.
job. Yeah, the
Yeah, thank
character
you.
development has worked. Good job.
Yeah. Alright,
And
thanks.
I love that she's struggling with, like, her judging him, but at the same time, like, her judging him is, like, what she should do, right?
Yeah, good boundaries, Martin.
Mm, yeah, and if this weren't a 15-minute sprint, I would have marinated there a lot longer. I would have,
Yeah,
like, there would have been a whole lot more introspect and a little bit more about this guy and why she doesn't wanna go and a little bit more about herself but it's 15 minutes, so you kinda gotta get past it, so, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, thanks.
And I wonder too, like, see the nature of us sharing these. I wonder too if you had been just all by yourself with the
Mhm,
timer, right?
mhm.
And would you have taken that time and not cared that you didn't get it all out because this was not for public sharing? Just curious. I'm just curious how the nature of how we do these sprints affects us.
Yes. That's a great question. So what would have happened, I would have wrote for 25 minutes instead of 15. I would
Mhm.
have, like, really fleshed this scene out way more, and then when the buzzer went off, I would have happily got up and took a 5-minute break knowing I had something exciting to come back to, and then I would have
Mm.
sat down for another sprint, where this is sometimes it's disappointing because you wanna keep writing, but we had the podcast about to start. So you
So
can't
yes.
yeah.
Mhm. And you all
Yeah.
at home cannot compare what you do with what we do, I guess is a bigger takeaway because we know that this is prepared for others to hear. And so it does do
Right,
something, I think, in our brain.
Yeah, like, I
right.
added a line on mine just to give it
Mm.
some closure because there was, like, nothing.
Mhm.
Oh, Patricia Lakakis also just found us on Facebook and tuned in. How exciting. Join our Facebook group. There's a great chatter going on there all the time.
Yeah.
Purpose behind the pun, Jen. Aw, so suspenseful. I love it. And
Mhm.
Piper says that was great. I love how he could tell she didn't wanna go. He's looking
The
out
other
for
thing no
her.
one's commented on is, like, how did he know? Was he, like
Mm.
how was he paying that close
'Cause
of
he's
attention to what was
watching
going on?
her.
Yeah, like,
Mhm, mhm. He might
I
have been
love these
watching at the
characters.
Christmas party too.
Yeah, who knows? I don't
Yeah,
even know, like, I didn't even know there was a Christmas party till today, so
that's
all
great.
news.
Alright, well,
I
I'll
need to
go.
this is all just a bunch of, like, stuff. I need to flesh this story out. I need to outline it and really make
Yeah.
it a story,
I
so
wonder if Archie will stay in the final version of
I don't
this.
know. I
Mm.
don't know.
That's
Part of me
a
will be
that would
kinda
be
sad when the
like,
story's
add
done.
some jealousy a little bit
Mm.
on
Mm.
about Mr. Boss's part. Like, maybe the reason he was paying such attention is because he was a little jealous.
Right. That is exactly where I was heading, Tina, and the conversation that's gonna happen after this is she's gonna deny that she didn't want to, and then, "Why do you even care?" Then she's gonna be like, how do you even know?" What because Archie's back would have been to him, so he wouldn't so there's all these things happening that, like, would get really juicy if I had another writing sprint or 2. So,
That's so
Uh,
great when you wanna keep
fun.
going.
I know. Alright, I wanna hear what you wrote, Jamie.
Okay, well, I just I thought I was gonna get more words. Was inspired by many of the words, but I think I only got 1, mostly because as you can see, as you'll notice, like, lately, I feel like my writing sprints are very much a big, long setup, and I don't ever get to the point, like, I don't end up doing short stories in these sprints anymore. I don't know,
But
whatever.
that's a
So,
good thing, Jamie.
I guess.
No, I think that you're starting to write longer. I think
Yeah.
that, like, maybe that's where God is leading you, and you're in a transition period just like I am, and I think that, this is a sign that, like, because before you felt like you couldn't write long, right? But now you've written a novel, and you're editing it now, and maybe this is a sign that, like, this is, moving in that direction.
Well,
And if
that's
you think back
possible.
to what is the purpose of these sprints in the first place, the
Yeah.
purpose is not to have a beginning, middle, and an end or a resolution. The
It can.
purpose is to
Yeah.
practice your writing.
Right. True. Good point. Yeah. You
Right.
ladies are very encouraging.
So,
Mm.
alright.
All right.
Read a
So
few
here's
words
what
so we
I
can
got.
really be encouraging.
Yeah. All right. So again, 5 words: intensify migration wrap hemisphere essay. He tugged at the soiled bandage, but it wouldn't give. Grimacing down at the soiled wrap, he muttered a curse and then, peeling his lips away from his teeth as much as he could, bit down on the loose bit of fabric and yanked. His brain screamed in alarm from the sudden pain signal it received from the wound, but he didn't relent. This was a right hand job, and the right hand must be made available for use. The chompers did the trick, and he was able to switch to his fingers to continue the bandaging. Should be unbandaging, or continue on the bandaging. Anyway, his mind subtly amused by the change in color of the strands still remaining on his hand as layer after layer was revealed, and then experienced mild nausea at the odor uncovered as the final couple layers fell away, revealing a well-soaked gauze pad. He said, as if the voice chastising him from somewhere inside his own brain was actually an embodied presence in the room with him. He plopped the wounded hand into a bowl of clean water he'd prepared for this purpose and swished it around. He lifted the hand and visually inspected it. Not bad. Healing okay. He knew what Patience would say if she saw him doing what he was, and realized at that moment it was her voice in there with him. She was his conscience, his voice of reason, but the stubborn old codger he'd spent 7 decades endeavoring to create was too obstinate to listen, especially when she was merely a wisp of vapor in his head and not a plump and angry ball of no-nonsense standing before him, shaking a finger with her other hand on her hip. He snatched up the bandages and tossed them into the fire. He grabbed his coat and hat off the hook and grabbed the door handle, simultaneously delighted at the ease of the task with his freshly liberated hand and irritated by the complaint from the wound. Simmer down, he muttered to it, alternately flexing and clenching his fist in an effort to get himself used to the pain and to therefore deaden it. Morning, Charlie! It was Buster Perkins making his way down the road, pulling a few spindly logs, likely heading for the mill and whatever pittance he could get for them. Buster drank more than what was good for him, so Charlie was glad to see him up and at it this morning, even if it was just to get a few nickels from the mill. Morning, Buster. You seen my colt? Nah, ain't no one seen, at least according to what all was said down at the squirrel last night. You been to the squirrel and still up hauling logs? Charlie had to shout this last, as Buster's old mule, Missy, didn't take kindly to delays of any sort once she got the notion of where her master was wishing to go. Rare day, Buster called back, and on the heels of it, Charlie could hear his trademark guffaw, the one that always turned up the corners of even the most sour fella, the corners of the mouth of even the most sour fella in the room. Charlie turned up the path that led to his barn and caught himself chewing the insides of his lips. It was his own voice and not that of Miss Patience who chided him for this nonsense, and he knocked it off right quick. It was a nervous habit, he knew, and it gave way to folks he'd sooner not know the fact that he was worried something awful. The colt was the third of 3, 2, 1.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So good, first of all. And within the first like paragraph or two, before he started interacting with anyone else, I got these like Call the Wild like vibes. Like, and I don't even know how to put my finger on it. I don't know what it is, if it was just the style of writing or what, but like it just felt like an instant classic to me. But not just an instant classic, but like I don't know, Call of the Wild. Like, does that make any sense to you with what was going on in your head as you were writing it, or no?
Okay, so I feel always really dumb comparing my stuff to things because I feel like I've seen a movie preview, and so then I think that's what this movie is like. But like, some kind of older like Western stuff, like pioneering
Yeah.
stuff, like not Coyote Ugly. I can't even think of the one that I was like, I just have impressions of it, like these
Yeah.
impressions of old times, and not everyone has a car yet. And anyway, yeah.
Yeah,
So
and as you read more, like I completely agree. Piper says True Grit is what she.
oh yeah, and see that
Yeah.
would be like I don't really know what True Grit is like, so then I would feel dumb comparing it to that because maybe it's
Right.
nothing like, but just that kind of genre
Yeah.
or period, right?
Yeah. I think now I can put my finger in it a little bit more too. The first part, like the whole survival thing and the
Mm.
like that part of thing, like, just you wrote that so well about the wound and the unwrapping and the pain, like, I could see it and I could feel it just like when you read Call of the Wild, you feel everything, all the, like, survival part of it and all the, like, the wounds and, like so, yeah, I
Thank
thought really well
you.
done.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
And
Yeah.
at the risk of sounding like a broken record, your characters
I
are
know.
always supreme.
Well, thank you.
Mhm.
I like this guy and I like this whole thing and I would like to spend more time with him, but I have no idea where it's going. Yes, why is the colt what's up with the missing colt? Yes, I would also like to know. I guess
Yeah.
there's 3 animals that have gone missing and like why. And then I
Right.
think that he's worried that there's a thief and that would have to be dealt with because he's really like a peaceful sort of a person. And so do you punish and if it isn't up to him but it's up to this greater community, like, that's what it feels like is happening. Like he's
Right.
worried that there will have to be consequences for somebody and if he can't keep it under wraps, everybody's going to demand blood. Like that's how it's feeling. But see how big that
Right.
is? Can't do
Yeah.
it in 15 minutes.
Right. Sounds like another novel to me,
Oh
and so
gosh.
and sounds like that to Meg. Meg says, "Keep going, you sprint at a time if you have to."
I appreciate that.
Piper says, "Oh my gosh, Jamie, these people are so fleshed out, so real, and what's up with the cult missing?" She same thing. Jamie wants to know too.
I
And then
appreciate
SL
that.
Parent says, "Feeling so encouraged from watching the show. I thank God for you ladies." Oh, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Gosh, we really appreciate that.
All
Really,
right,
really
Tina. I'm sorry I have to ask you to read your sprint, and hopefully I will be able to stick around for the end of it. But if I disappear, y'all will have to take over from me and have a wonderful weekend.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, I have no idea what this is. I just latched on the migration and this is what came out.
Okay.
The migration of the caribou started only that week, and Joe followed them, one pack on his back and another harnessed across the back of his dog, Kenai. Kenai was a giant beast, his wolf ancestry more prominent than the Siberian husky in his DNA. He was capable of carrying much more, but Joe preferred to share the load. It was spring on the tundra, and new life was blossoming all around them. The caribou had sped south in the beginning of their migration, but now they slowed, chewing hungrily at the new plants shooting up, sometimes from half thawed tundra, sometimes right through patches of snow. These slow periods were perfect for hunting. Joe dropped his pack, told Kenai to stay, and crept slowly toward the herd.
Mm.
Occasionally, one would look up in his direction, lifting its nose toward the wind. But Joe had purposely chosen to approach against the wind, and it blew his scent away. He froze until the suspicion lessened, and the animal once again bent his head to eat. The beating of Joe's heart intensified as he got closer, scooting along on his belly behind the low scrub. He took deep breaths, willing his heart to slow so the animals wouldn't sense his approach. When he was only yards away, he lay still on the moss, choosing carefully which animal he would target. There was a yearling nearby, his back turned to Joe, pulling hungrily at the tender green shoots. His reaction time would be slower than the rest, especially with his lack of experience compared to the older ones.
Mhm.
Joe counted slowly down from 10. Then, in one fluid motion, he jumped to his feet and threw his spear, aiming for the animal's heart. The rest of the herd moved almost as one, several calling out their familiar bugle at the danger, most of them grunting as they went from still to running at full speed. The yearling stood stock still, its eyes wide with shock, the spear protruding from behind his shoulder. Then he fell, panting heavily, until the life left his body. Joe moved forward and laid his hand on the animal's head. Thank you, friend, for the life you've shared so I may live. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, wow, Tina. I love when you write, gritty crime drama, but I also love when you write this type of work and, the descriptions that you use, for, like, the setting and, like, the knowledge you have of, like, the just, like, the animals. So I wouldn't even, like, know anything about was it caribou? Yeah. So well done. I really, really liked it. So, is
You
this
probably
part
know
of
about
any
caribou more than you think because the domestic caribou are called reindeer,
Oh, well, there you go.
and wild caribou are called caribou.
Did not know this.
Same animal,
Ah,
because you can't
interesting.
sell wild game in the store. So
Oh,
in Alaska, you can order pizza from the pizza place with reindeer sausage on it.
it's crazy.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to try it. I'm gonna have to try it. Purpose behind the pen says, "Aw, very emotional scene, written beautiful." Yeah,
thanks.
like and I could feel even the, like, tension building up as it was, like, coming time, like, for, like, what he was about to do, and I'm like, "Is he gonna get it? And if he doesn't, is he starving? I don't know. Like, is he, like, feeding an entire village? I don't know."
I
Piper
don't
says,
know
"That was
either.
awesome. It also reminds me of Call of the Wild." Yeah, it's like a Call of the Wild day. Yeah, it's
I was
crazy.
I was in a group that, and I'm on so many groups on Facebook. I can't remember what they're all called, but
Mhm.
somebody had asked, what was the first book you read as a child that really impacted you?
Yeah.
And the very first book was Kavik the Wolf Dog, and it was about an Alaskan Malamute that was in a plane crash, and then he makes his way
Mhm.
back to his master, kind of thing.
Mhm.
And then right after that, I read Call of the Wild. So those two books are kind of like mingled together in my, like, deep inside of me.
Yeah.
Right, that was the inspiration from when I was like 8, 9 years old. Of I want to write like that.
Yeah. So my books would have been a mixture of, and I don't know which one came first, but, Little Women. Little Women for sure. Anne of Green Gables for sure, and, Jeanette Oak books. Like, I devoured them at,
And
like,
see
12
how
years
the
old.
difference, and like I read like James Michener and those kind of books when I was a kid,
Mhm.
and you can see, and J.R.R. Tolkien, so they can
Right.
see like the influence of what we read as children coming through in our writing. It's really fascinating to me.
Yeah, I never read any Tolkien until I was an adult, but I did read a lot of C.S. Lewis. I read all the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, loved all of that. Um, yeah, but that came after I'd read these other books and fell in love with reading. So, Piper says first book that she read was an illustrated Goldilocks book. Okay, so yes, I read
But we're talking about a book that really inspired you, that really touched you deep inside, not just the
right.
first book you read. So
'Cause the first book I remember was my grandmother had a Richard Scarry book that had you went through all the pages and you tried to find Goldbug in all the city and stuff, and, loved it. Like, I loved that book, and I ended up buying it for my kids. I found it online, and I bought a used version of it, so
right, like I had Dr. Seuss and all the little golden books that had
yeah,
all the Bible stories in them. My mom
yeah,
used to bring a stack to church with us.
yeah,
But the first book that really just got me in the feels was Kavik.
mhm.
Yeah.
Alright, well, we are over time, so let's wrap it up. Tina, what is your what's next?
My what's next is gonna try to get back into opening my manuscript every day. Um, and there's this whole thing with changes to Google and Yahoo Mail
Mhm.
coming
Mhm.
up.
Oh,
I think we're going to talk about that next week
next week, we're gonna
on the
talk about it.
podcast. And I started to attempt to do that, and it was so easy. I should have known it wasn't that. Like, there was a step
Oh,
that I didn't do that I need to do that is not as easy as the rest of it. So I'm
mhm.
still working on it, but we're going to talk about this whole DMARC and TXT and SPR records that you need in order for your emails to get sent now.
Right.
So
Sounds great to me. So my next what's next is to learn all those things she just said and have her teach me how to do it. Maybe we should like walk through a video or something and so we can show next week. We're going to talk about that off air, but I have to do that for mine because it's got to be done by the end of the month, correct? Before
February
February 1st
1st
or
is when
March
the
1st.
changes go in.
Okay. I also got an email from Google saying that Google Podcasts is going away. And here's my commentary. Everything that's good with Google, they take away. We loved Google Hangouts,
hmm
took it away. They like there's like been several things. I don't understand why Google can't pick a product and like stick with it and develop it and so
Yeah,
what was the other one that was
it
like
was
Facebook?
Facebook. It was the Facebook rooms in our was one thing that went away.
Oh, that was Facebook though, not Google.
Yeah, I don't remember what else.
There was a thing like Facebook. Oh, golly, and, like, for a hot minute, that was where you needed to be if you were gonna, like, promote anyways. So, it doesn't really affect the podcast because 'cause we're everywhere else. It really only affects people that use Google Podcasts to listen to so all your subscriptions, you gotta go somewhere else then and subscribe. So, I guess find a company that's doing well, like Spotify or something like that, if you aren't already using Apple Podcasts. So my what's next is, like I said, to do what Tina was talking about and to try to finish up this organizing so that I can get this office. And I want to finish writing this scene, and I'm gonna go through these goals, and I'm gonna finish it. I'm gonna finish book 4 and schedule. In the next 2 weeks, my goal is to order a copy for editing. So
Awesome.
that's my what's next. All right, everybody, we appreciate y'all for being here. And until next time, may your pen be prolific, may your deadlines be met, and may all of your words honor Christ. Bye now.